is John Leng of John Joe's Blogspot on Facebook. Do give it a like, you will be amused. And Lee Keys of systembet.co.uk. I'm Cathryn Fry, and we're going to be taking you through the ARC on Sunday, a look at the Marcel Boussac, and any other thoughts that cross the panel's mind during the weekend's racing. We do have some questions to start, so I'm going to read them out and put them to our two discerning guests here. So I had some really good questions in on Twitter. This came in from Invicta Capital. I'm going to put it to you both. John, I think I might come to you first because I think it's going to be quite amusing. The most overrated big name trainer and the most underrated trainer.
Okay. Well, I'll go the most overrated. I think. Okay. I don't think you can go far wrong by claiming that the Screaming killed himself.
He's
probably the most overrated. He's had Arab patronage for God knows how long now. And here we are, we're coming into ARC weekend, and most of his stuff's heading for Exham and places like that, you know. He's not even on the radar, is he?
Okay.
It's very sad, you know, but also kind of amusing.
I can imagine if you have a few chuckles over that one, John. And is there anyone that catches your eye in the fact that you think that they are really underrated and they should deserve to get more horses?
Well, most of them, in their own heads, probably underrated, really. I'm sure the likes of Charlie Fellows, people like that, consider themselves very, very underrated. I think this weekend will tell us whether that trainer in particular is underrated or not. More about that subject later.
Okay. Lee, do you have any anything to add to that particular question?
Yeah, John's correct with his kilt analogy. It's just, but I would say overrated, possibly Ralph Beckett, or is it Rafe Beckett?
Ralph.
What is his name, man? What is his name? And it's for that reason only. If you demand to be called Rafe, you're overrated. And that's it. That's for that reason only.
60 in the bank and it's like Ralph, you say it Rafe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's only if it's old money, though, John. If it's new money, the Rafe bit.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's got to be like farmers.
And he's always moaning, you know. So I mean, when someone moans a lot, it's like, yeah, you're overrated. Underrated, I would say. I'm going to give a shameless plug here to my trainer, Grant Chua, who was 21% with 2-year-olds last season. He does very well with a very limited, what shall we say,
ammunition.
What I tend to spend on horses. Yeah, we aren't troubling anyone, like, you know, in the south, you know, with what we buy. But at the same time, I think Grant does an excellent job and for what he's got. And so I would say Grant Chua, definitely.
That rare thing amongst trainers as well. He's a pretty nice fella.
He is, and he's very easy to deal with. He's straight. He'll tell you straight. You know, if your horse is not much cop, he'll tell you. You know, and that's it. So can't fault it.
Refreshingly honest, you would say.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. For a trainer, you know, I mean, yeah. You know, we all know that you can get with some trainers and they just want to take you for a ride for the 12-month bills, you know, and then finally say after 12 months, well, your horse is no good, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I find it quite refreshing. He's a nice bloke, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's a rare thing among trainers. I mean.
Yeah, some trainers are quite unapproachable, I think. You know, like some trainers. You know, like aloof. Aloof is the word.
Yeah. Which is weird because they're obviously in a customer service environment, really, aren't they? You know, I find it weird that they're quite unapproachable.
If you had to give them a job in a shop, they'd go bust, wouldn't they? You know.
Something, yeah. Can't imagine, you know, a fair few of them working down B&M for Christmas, though, John. You know.
Well, if you go around Newmarket and try to get a civil word out of 3 of them in Newmarket, And you'd probably find it easier to get 2.5 foot of cooked spaghetti up a mountain lion's back.
Actually, there, Catherine, you're wrong. No, Seamus Mullins, this is fact.
Yes, I know. I just thought of that. I know. I apologise to Seamus Mullins. He was during lockdown. He worked at Waitrose. Was it Waitrose or something like that? Yes. Yeah. And absolutely fair play to him. You know,
it wouldn't be Lidl though, would it?
I guess out of all of them, it had to be Waitrose. But still fair play to the man. You wouldn't catch many doing that. And actually, he's great on social media as well. I don't know how many people follow his Facebook page, but he puts lots of information out about his horses, and he's not paying me to say this or anything like that. So but yeah, he seems to be able to communicate well with social media. Anyway, back to the questions. Question here from Mark McKay on Twitter. It's a really good question. What does the panel think of Ed Walker's campaigning of English King, including the jockey switch? Is the Tory weak in a finish over 12 furlongs plus, and could he be the biggest danger to Enable's op?
Absolutely not. He's no danger to Enable's that bit at all. He's experienced. I think mentally he's probably as good as he's ever been. The fact that he probably isn't match fit, but he's neat and streamlined, and he's a very polished horseman. He's not going to be flapping about it. You're not talking about Luke Morris going and riding this horse, are you? It's a man at the absolute top of his profession. No, he won't be any hardship to the horse at all, I don't think.
Okay, and what do you think of the campaigning of English King?
Like?
Well, I mean, for me, I just think they've got it completely wrong. I mean, you win the Derby trial at Lingfield, then you go to Epsom naturally. The race possibly didn't pan out. It was a strange race, as everyone knows, at Epsom. And then after that, you just then start to question what, for the Gordon Stakes, the tactics, everything about what they've done since. I'm just not sure that would have been my choice. I was certain that the horse wanted a flat galloping track, and just a nice pace to run out. And the Ledger, I think, would have been ideal. But then he disappointed in France. I don't know why that was. It might just be it's not as good as we think he is, but certainly, for example, let's say you run the King Edward at Ascot, and let's say Serpentine, an English King, went to the King Edward straight after the Derby, which wouldn't happen, but just hypothetically, English King would have been a shorter price than the Derby winner. That's fact. That's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. So have they placed it well? No, but then it is. I suppose it's captain hindsight. It wouldn't have been my choice the way they've done it, but and the replacement of jockeys, I think, is disgraceful, to be honest. So,
yeah, agree with that. Okay, Nick Davis, a great supporter of ours. Thanks, Nick. He very graciously wrote us a question in French. I had to think back a very long time ago to GCSE French. What, John, was that? Sorry?
Zut alors.
Zut alors, exactly. He wants to know, obviously we're going to have to answer these hypothetically because no one's allowed to go. What is the recommended place to stay for the weekend? Montmartre or Left Bank? And do you have snails for breakfast? Definitely not snails for breakfast, Nick.
I think the left bank of the Seine would be preferable to the right, depending on the quality of cardboard box you can obtain.
Okay. I can't answer that. Do you know, I've never been to the Arc, always wanted to go, never been. So hopefully I will get there one day. Anything to add to that, Lee?
Yeah, talking about going to the Arc, I would recommend it for anyone to do it in their lifetime. Especially when you do your bollocks, because I mean, there's nothing finer than I went over to watch Generous. I think I was 18 or 19. Don't quote me on age, I can't. I'm terrible with memory, but I went over to
36 when that was running, weren't you?
Yeah, I probably. Anyway, forget the age. I mean, so I drove there and basically slept in my car. I got a load of cash, transferred it into francs, and blasted it on the French tote, thinking, well, they'll all back Suave Dancer because it's cash. Bravo, cash. You know. So I'm thinking I'll get a nice price, generous on the PMU. Didn't quite work out like that. It was about the same as what the books were going in the end, and I'd shoved everything on. I thought Generous was I loved him, and so I had to drive home, literally having an am croissant because I'd got about 10 quid in my pocket. Seriously, that's a true story. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, on the bright side, you were there right at the start of Paul Cole's 15-year winner drought.
Yeah, Snurge, I believe. Snurge?
I think so. Yeah.
Snurge won the oh God, what's the name? Not the Boosac, the other one. What's the other one?
Yeah, the Grand Criterion Leg.
That's the one. Yeah, that one. And to be honest, that was a good sight, really. Like you said, Paul Cole. Like that was Paul Cole's
swan song.
I think so. Yeah. Sadly.
So the Ark is definitely recommended, even if you do your absolute nuts. Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
I'd recommend it to anyone just to do it once and just experience it because it's quite a partisan atmosphere. It's quite it was in the old days because you got the English books going over, like laying a book, because obviously everyone thought the French tote was no good, and normally they're right. But the thing was with the French tote is I anticipated everyone backing Suave Dancer on the French tote because, and got it wrong. There we go.
There you go. A great story, Lee. Thank you for that. We've had a question from a friend of yours, I believe, Mr. Jason McIver. Jason, I would absolutely love to read these questions out. We have had a giggle at them, but I'm afraid if I do, then I would be facing a lawsuit, and I really don't need another one of those on my hands emitting from a podcast. So unfortunately, I can't bring them out on air. But if anybody wants to know what the questions were, you can drop us a DM. So we onwards. Anyway, looking at the Arc, so 305 on Sunday, the first betting as they stand at the moment. Enable at 5-4, Stradivarius 13-2, Sudsas 8-1, Inswoop 10-1, Mogul 12s, and Serpentine 12s. John, I'll start with you. Where do you want to go?
Well, there's a little ginger friend of mine. I was really keen on Stradivarius. I'm not at the price. I think he can run well given the correct sort of ride. He'll be holding up. But I have a theory about this Arc.
Okay.
And the theory is, and I hope Aidan's listening, and I know he does drop in and out of this podcast.
Tunes in, yeah.
From time to time. And if he is listening, he can pay me a small consultancy fee afterwards. He's got Sovereign and the Derby winner in this. Mm-hmm. And what he needs to do, he needs to get the pair of them to the front. And then he needs Sovereign in second, dictating how fast the peloton goes. Because if he does it right, he could win this with Serpentine, and it would absolutely ruin the season for everybody. because then you'd have a messed up Derby and a messed up Arc, and it really could happen if he gets it right with Sovereign. Because once they're in some sort of order after a furlong, nobody is going to go past Sovereign to chase the runaway pacemaker. They won't do it. And if he's switched on enough to do it, he can win the Arc with an absolute crab. And it's a shame, but there you go. That's my theory.
Aidan, if you are listening, just send the invoice to John there. Would be hilarious if you had actually called that right, John. So if Serpentine were to win this, obviously comes into the race as the Derby winner, would it still be peak 2020 if he won this?
Yeah, it's the only way he can win it. It has to be an absolute filthy machination from Colmar.
Okay.
And as I said, it's the only way he can do it. I mean, Aiden's got most of these races boxed off now, where he's running 5 or 6.
Yep.
He has 2 up the front. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2 sitting midfield, and then he always runs a sweeper as well, just in case the front end goes too quick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's going to win the Derby 4 years out of every 5 now. You know,
Yeah.
It's tragic.
Yeah, no, understand. So if pushed for a selection, where would you go?
Possibly last year's 3rd, but I don't really see me having a bet.
Okay, all right. Lee, your thoughts on the Arc?
Yeah. Well, I mean, betting wise, I mean, obviously it surrounds Enable bidding for a 3rd Arc, and I mean, seriously, I think if she turns up on the day and performs to her very, very best, then she's probably going to win. But I mean, we're talking. While John's been talking, I've just got the French weather up again, and there's some serious ill pleur going to fall. You know, in the next sort of 24, 36 hours, and this could be a proper bog.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, for me, one of the best trials I saw personally, and I don't get me wrong, I like Sock's Ass. It was 3rd last year. I like that.
Yeah.
But I do have preference for In Swoop.
Okay. Won the German Derby?
Absolutely. Right.
Yep.
I mean, it's by Older Flug, German, they love all the 3 foot deep, the 3 foot deep brigade. I mean, the Mum won on heavy. This 11-1 each way, and I think some bookmakers are going crazy and might be going 4 pegs, each way a pleasure. I mean, how can In Swoop not run a race? It was the best Arc trial. If you watch, it was sort of sat out the back, gave a lot of ground away behind Merkel, and it finished really nicely. And you wonder how actually off they were, because there was nothing forceful about the ride. It wasn't about that race there, and they finished it off nicely. And I'm thinking, and that was good ground. That was quick ground. That was
Merkel's Arc, wasn't it?
And we're talking. We've had this horse has had 4 races. 4 races. That's all. And it's managed to do that on its 4th ever start. And I think it's very interesting. I wouldn't lay 10-11-1. No chance. Not obviously if the ground is that tested.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Lee. That's great insight. So push for selection. You're going to go In Swoop each way?
That's for me, yes.
Yeah.
Quite a strong each way as well, yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Now, I understand that you guys want to look at the Marcel Boussac. Who wants to go first? Because when we were having a discussion about this just before we started recording, I believe you both have a really what you think is a really good bet for this race. So go for it. Lee, I'll start with you. You make your case first.
Okay, indeed, yes. I was very taken by the debut of Thunder Beauty of Mr. Condor. Who, as we know, he's done very, very well with his 2-year-olds in recent times, and the Curragh Maiden win on debut was a lot more. It had far more superiority about it than what anyone could have sort of like said in the form book, if you know what I mean. You just knew that this filly would have just literally whatever had come up to it had just gone again and again and again and again, and so then they stepped up to a Group 1 second start, which obviously a lot do in Ireland, and it got a very disadvantageous ride. Held up last. It was really last sort of two and a half furlongs out. Absolutely powered through late, and you could see it's as good as the winner. You could rate it as the group. You could rate that horse as the equal joint best horse in that race that day. And the pedigree suggests that a mile will definitely suit. Night of Thunder's go on anything, absolutely anything. It wouldn't be a worry. The Damn Silly Damn Sire is a bit of a worry, but if it was well beat, you'd then blame the ground. But then, we can all have to time. But for me, this at 10-1 is absolutely enormous. I think this is a real quality filly, really, really high quality. And I think that as long as she handles conditions, which a lot of these won't race on probably ground as deep as this come Sunday, then I think she's got an absolutely amazing chance. So like 10-1, 11-1 in places, I believe, is absolutely enormous for Thunder Beauty, and she would be my best bet of the weekend.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that, Lee. Thunder Beauty in the Marcel Boussac for Lee. John, go for it.
Yes, same race. Tasmania. I am just about on the cusp of making this my bet of the week, and I would say there are two trainers that train for the Worth in my family. You've got this fella, Mr. Lafon Pariah, or whatever he's called, and Freddie the Frog, as Willie Carson used to call Freddie Head. Now, if Freddie the Frog trained this, I would be all over it for the guineas by now, because he loves sending one over here, but the other fella doesn't. But the other fella does tend to win these. Okay. He back in 2012, he had a horse called Silasol that came into this race off the back of a maiden win, and absolutely yonked up, and then won the St. Hilary at 3 years. First time out. I was really, really impressed with this one when it's maiden last time. Physically, I thought the absolute stacks of scope. Definitely for me a Group 1 filly in the making. Similar to Silasol, where he's won the race with before. Silasol was by Monster, and this one's out of a Monster mare. It really won't care how deep the ground gets. It's already won over a mile. It'll steer the trip, no problem. 16-1 is ridiculous.
Okay, where I'm looking, John, I think I'm just looking here with Hills. They are 20-1.
Yeah, well, I've backed it at 14s with Hills earlier in the week, so I can understand them pushing it out after the shrewd money came in. Hills are going to be wiped off the map shortly, aren't they? And I think they've decided they're either going to take me out or I'm going to take them out.
Okay. Well, let the listeners decide who to side with, but that's Thunder Beauty for Lee and Tasmania for John, both in the Marcel Boussac. Now we're just going to have a little look at this weekend's racing. Lee, I know that there's a few horses that you wanted to talk about Saturday's racing, so go ahead.
Yeah, just sort of, I'd sort of made notes for Saturday, and obviously it's very difficult with the rain, but I think if I could give advice to anyone betting this weekend, sometimes speed figures need to be put in the bin on ground such as this. Ascot will probably ride very soft tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'll start there. 155 at Ascot. Made in India absolutely adores soft, heavy ground in the Rouse Stakes. And Tis Marvellous will handle that and loves the course. And I felt the two coupled, I know it's not very attractive, but 11-2 and 5-1 would make around about 9-4 the pair. But I thought that was very fair because like I said, Made in India is an absolute slot beast. So basically that horse, and it had a lovely prep, I felt, at the Curragh in a very good race. So I think Made in India and Tis Marvellous will be my two in the Rouse Stakes in the 155 at Ascot.
Okay, brilliant. Anything else to add to the weekend?
For me, probably my best bet on the Saturday, and I may as well do my best bet on the Saturday, would be in the 3:25 at Redcar, the big 2-year-old race there. I did feel that Uncle Jumbo was very big at 10-1, simply because the rail at Redcar, or both rails, I think the middle of the track is not the place to be. I think either rail is a massive advantage. And Uncle Jumbo's ran some great races this season. Didn't quite get the 6.5 at Doncaster last time. Came there looking like he was going to be involved very, very close in the finish. Just got tired late on. 6 furlong, soft ground, fantastic. If Kevin Stott, if he's listening, listen, Kevin Stott. You're drawn in stall 1. You know what to do. Tight to that rail. Do not go down the middle. Do not come across. Do not stay centre. Go far rail. And we're all going to have a few quid. Yes.
That's it. Start listening with Aidan.
I know, that's what I mean. Just we got some great listeners, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Okay. Right, I have noted those down. John, weekend, what's it looking like for you?
I have what I think is a really good bet in the big handicap at Ascot tomorrow. The challenge, is it? King Ottercar.
Okay.
I went fairly big on this last time at Doncaster. It was going better than the winner, 3 furlongs out, and then didn't get any kind of run. Travelled an absolute dream. They messed about with the trip this year. I think they started off thinking it was around the quarter horse, and here we are, we're running over 7 tomorrow. But it travels lovely. The ground will be no problem whatsoever. I think any sort of double digit price is very, very useful. This one, I like it very much. I think it could be a pattern class miler next year, actually. If the case.
Okay, well, sitting here devastated that neither of you have mentioned a great meeting at Gorham Park tomorrow. Cheltenham Festival winners on display. What more do you want? Silence.
Go on then.
Go, Cat.
Have you got one for us?
Do you know what? I actually don't have a bet of the weekend because this ground, when the ground goes like this, it just haunts me. Bit like, even more nervous than having a bet at Haydock. Do you know what I mean? You just you just can't do it. But I think she's favourite. But the Arkle winner put the kettle on. I absolutely love the way she jumps. She can get herself a bit fuzzy, but she stays prominent in her races. And then when she's headed, she'll go again, and she tends to jump everything else into submission. So really interesting to see her in the champion chase at Gorham Park tomorrow. But apart from that, I'm a little bit gutted. I don't actually have a bet of the weekend, so I'm going to have to jump on one of yours. I think Lee's kind of talked me into an each way on In Swoop in the Arc. And I'm sitting there biting my nails to see whether your prophecy comes true, John. So, and then I'll kick myself up my arse for not backing Serpentine. It'll be like, John foresaw it all. But, yeah.
If you want one for the weekend to give you a bit of a laugh, Catherine.
Yeah.
In the Prix de l'Opera, there's a horse there that me and Lee both managed to get beat at Pontefract of all places, called Audaria, owned by Alison Swinburne, Wally's ex-wife, and trained by James Fanshawe. After we got it beat at Pontefract, it came up and won a Group 1, didn't it, Lee?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and it shot me for the moon again at the weekend, and it wouldn't be the biggest shock if it rubbed a bit more salt in the wound. It was an absolute stinker of a race at Ponty as well, so, and they even managed to keep us out the frame.
Okay.
Unbelievable effort.
You're not tempted by on Sunday?
Absolutely not. No.
14-1.
The horse, as well as God, hates me. So.
God specifically, or any other society?
Thinking about getting involved in that, no. I'll still be counting it from the Marcel Bosack with any luck.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Anything else before we close that you want to say about the weekend's racing, or it's been quite an eventful week in the world of horse racing and in the world in general. These are indeed interesting times that we are living in. So, if you want to throw in any other comments before we close, do feel free.
I just think all these small fields when you can't talk to a trainer who's not talking about a game blaming crisis. And every time there's a bit of prize money on offer, they can't even get the dead eight for each way betting.
Yeah.
It's astonishing, these trainers, I mean, they wouldn't know a financial crisis if it came up to them wearing a sign with "I'm a financial crisis" written on. And it's ridiculous. It really is. The only thing they know how to do is hold their hands out.
Okay. All right.
I mean, for me, I mean, the latest initiative that the BHA have produced, this team racing they're spending 1.8 million. I mean, I don't know who this serves. I really don't. The problem is at the bottom end. The bottom end are the people struggling. Like we're not right owners. If you put on Twitter, "Oh, I'm an owner and I'm struggling," you'll get a load of people saying, "Oh, well, I'm on benefits and I'm struggling." But the point is that you've got an obligation to that horse. You can't just say, "Well, just put it aside." You've got an obligation to keep that horse in training. And so on and so on. So if you're not getting a return on your money or any kind of decent return, just like it's. For me, that's where the money should go. The money should go right at the bottom end. Keep it running. Keep the races churning for the bookmakers. Keep the bottom end owners happy. Coolmore don't need it's all about the breeding for them. So, as I said, that's where I stand.
Well, yeah, because I mean, aside, big days, great and everything, but you have to keep the industry going. You have to keep those betting shop fodder days going. And that is what keeps everybody in work. So, yeah, I totally agree with you there. There never, ever seems to be something put in place for the lower end of the scale. So I would hope that might be looked at. But,
because, as we say, Catherine, it costs the same to keep a Group 1 horse in training as it does a selling plater. I mean, aside the entry fees, of course, but it's all relative. And that's the thing. The bottom end doesn't get enough protection to keep the wheels churning. When everyone needs the Class 6 handicaps, the Southalls, the Lingfields, because it keeps the industry going, like you rightly said. It keeps people in jobs and it keeps everything going while the big horses have rests and wait for the targets. So, as I said, that's what I'd try. So I think it's another massive own goal again by the BHA. I just think, what on earth are you thinking? The bottom end needs helping out because owners want to sell because the businesses are struggling, and that's where I stand.
The trouble is, there's nobody at the BHA wants to grasp the nettle because it's not a glamorous thing to help, is it? The lower end.
Exactly.
No.
It doesn't deliver a nice lunch. All it is hard graft and a hard sell, and there's nobody at the BHA that has the will to, or in fact the respect and the love of the sport to actually kick on and do something like that.
Yeah.
The only thing that they respect and love is the salary and the pension. And they don't want to do anything to jeopardise that.
Are you suggesting, John? And of course, just got the old solicitors standing by on this. Are you suggesting that they might be in it just for the riding the gravy train?
Well, I just think they go through the motions all the time. There's no innovative thinking, really, is there? They just revisit the same old ideas year on year, and dress them up differently.
No, I agree. That I don't know why it's so hard to understand that due to the smaller days and the everyday days is actually what keep the big days going as well, because everything is a shop window. People say, "Oh, the Gold Cup, the Grand National," our sports shop window days. Well, actually, really everything is, because you want to be. I don't understand why you can't put the same effort into selling a day at Southall as you would. Surely you'd be putting in a huge effort to try and sell a day like that. To a day at the festival. I don't. It seems to be. It's a bracket that most people of racing are in, but no one seems to want to push it.
It emphasises the lack of understanding at the BHA that if you asked any of them what our biggest shop window day was, they'd all say the Grand National.
Yeah.
And the Grand National wouldn't recruit you a handful of year-round punters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's about getting people in and getting them betting. You can't finance this sport on getting people in for an afternoon and all having an ice cream.
Yeah.
Got to have a bet.
Absolutely.
Top and bottom of it.
Yeah, agree, John.
Nobody wants to embrace that ugly truth.
Yeah.
Very well said, John.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Very, very well said. Right, okay. So everybody enjoy the weekend. I know looks like it's going to be a long time before we are all back on course, but hope you're all well. To all the listeners, have a great weekend watching the racing, and we will be back soon with another podcast. Thanks to John and thanks to Lee. Stay safe. We'll see you all soon.